Well guys, I finally did it. I bought a Mark 1 Toyota MR2. It's a piece of work, but now it's my piece of work. It's got obnoxious, oversized wheels, a minor dent in the passenger side, terrible spray paint, and a cheap aftermarket steering wheel. The interior is actually pretty decently clean though, and we got T-tops. Hell yes. Now here's a quick list of stuff I currently plan on doing to the car based on what I've found so far. I definitely have my work cut out for a while, and I'm sure this will keep growing as I work on it too. If you know me, this has been my dream car since before I was into cars. Now of course, the Celica is still a favorite of mine and my trusty daily driver, and the Fiat Spider is my car for life, but these 80s Japanese MR2s have always been in the back of my mind as a companion dream car to the 70s European roadster that is the Fiat. Though the Fiat Spider is more a car I want to keep classic and restore as stock, this is a car I want to tear apart and turn into my own customized project. And boy, is it a project. I've been watching these things get more and more expensive over the years and finally just decided it was time to snatch one up. Besides the cosmetic stuff I mentioned, the engine runs good enough. I mean, I drove it 2 hours home, but it could definitely use a tune-up and a bit of work. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. I'm gonna film myself working on this big project every step of the way, and we'll see where this goes. I kinda wish I got more shots of it before I dug in, but I was on a time crunch to film my main videos. And yes, I am still filming normal videos. This will be a more casual side thing I do alongside those. But anyways, here we go. Part 1 of my 1989 MR2 project series. I plan on first replacing the steering wheel, mounting the battery, removing the seats, which I want to reupholster, and jacking the car up to take the wheels off and get better engine access. Plus, whatever else I end up getting to. I drove this car home from 2 hours away, and I have to be completely honest, despite these being my dream car, my first drive was not as satisfying as I expected. Even after buying the car and having the title handed over, it just didn't feel like it was my car. It felt like I was driving someone else's crap beater. On top of that, the car didn't drive as well as it should have. The wheels are way too big and scrape, the steering wheel feels cheap, the brake pedal was inconsistently soft, and the exhaust is straight piped, which was deafening on the freeway. Plus, the stereo doesn't work, so I couldn't even play my tunes. I mean, come on. So I'm really hoping as I work and build this car, it feels more like mine and how I always dream the car to look and feel like. I want to make the car as nice as possible, but I also don't have a ton of money to pour into it, so I want to restore and clean as much of the current car as I can and do as much of the work by myself as possible. But with that, I still want to make the car something that is truly my own. I hope to work on each part of it and do my own custom work where I feel is needed. And with that, we can finally get started. So first thing I'm doing is removing the steering wheel. It has some cheap aftermarket one on right now, which if it was nicer, I'd consider keeping it, but as the main thing I'm holding while driving, this just isn't worth it. I picked up a stock wheel the same day I got the car, so I am ready to go. Okay, unfortunately, after unscrewing everything and getting to the main bolt that holds the hub on, I couldn't pop it out, so I'm gonna need a steering wheel puller, which we have, but I'll have to do another time since it's back home. Kinda disappointing first task. Another easy thing I wanted to check off though was properly tying down the battery. It's missing the bracket that holds it in, so it can just slide all around right now, which is not good. I want to get the proper stock bracket to secure it perfectly later. You can see it's supposed to mount to this bolt here, but for now this cheap tie down that I got will do the trick, I think. Still some sway, but a lot better than it was. I already mentioned the paint is a terribly done spray paint job. Not a huge deal since I plan on repainting it later anyways, but one annoying thing is they got overspray everywhere. all of the lights are tinted red now, and this brake light on the spoiler is the worst, being completely black when it should be clear red. I'm popping this one off first just so I can see what my options are for removing the paint from it, which I'll do to all the taillights and oversprayed parts later. Hopefully it's not too hard. Again, this is the worst piece, so I'm hoping if I can get the paint off this, then I should be able to do anything. I mean, just look at this. You can see the backside is perfectly red while the front is just completely blacked out. Now looking inside the cockpit, honestly, the seats aren't in too bad of shape. They aren't perfect, which you can see with this trim coming off, but still, I want to pull them out and reupholster them to be nice, clean, black, leatherette vinyl. These are actually the early Mk1 MR2 seats. The later Mk1 MR2s, like mine, have different seats, so they already aren't truly original as is. Now, I've never sewn something on this level though, so I popped out the sun visors, which will be my test before the seats. They could use a refresh anyways, and I figure if I mess this up, it's not that big of a deal, and I could probably buy some new ones for pretty cheap. One of the other worn out parts of the interior is this ashtray. The black layer is worn through, so I'm gonna pull it out and see what I can do about getting it back to matching black. The stereo turns on and you can scroll through radio stations, but nothing actually plays, and it won't seem to take cassettes either. I'm kind of torn on this because I do like the stock look of it, but since it just doesn't work, I've decided to just take it out. Maybe I can find another stock Toyota stereo to put in, or just put a modern one with aux that doesn't look terrible. It also may be cool to find another retro stereo with cassette, but we'll see what the options are. The last owner also did this kind of weird thing where he tried to install a security system with this switch, which kind of just runs back under the dash. And you can also see here, there's another switch, which he also claims is part of the security system. Again, he said he never got it to actually work, so I'm probably just gonna tear them both out and hopefully I can patch up where it goes. But again, we'll kind of see because there's a lot going on back there. Here's the straight pipe I was talking about. I get people like loud cars, but I'm pretty over it already, especially for an engine that's supposed to rev to 7,500 RPM at the red line. Luckily, the manifold is still on there, so I'm thinking I'll just get some piping and find some stock-like muffler and bolt it under there. It'd be nice to do it myself, but I may just have to take it to a shop for this so they can just weld it all together and mount it better than I probably could, but we'll see what the budget is looking like. One of the headlights is out. They both actually work on high beams, but not the low. The last owner gave me 2 spares, so I plan on just changing them both while I'm at it. I'm a bit concerned the bolts are rusted out though, so we'll see. And yeah, that's about it for the first day of work, because I gotta get to filming now. More just spent time figuring out what I want to do with the car and letting it sink in how big of a time sink this is all going to be. But I mean, hey, hopefully it's worth it, I guess. Took out the seat while I was at it. Looks like it's just held together with a couple of bolts in there. So hopefully it comes apart pretty easy. Again, never have taken apart a seat or reupholstered one before, so we'll just have to see. Later that evening, my dad made some space in the garage for the car and we pulled it in. This will be its resting space for a bit while I work on it. It still feels unreal I finally have this car, and I'm both excited and overwhelmed with the amount of work I need to do on it, but I am very glad I can work on it indoors with some actual lighting. Alright, it's the next day. I'm at home right now. I did some research and found out you can remove spray paint with just normal cooking oil. I specifically used canola oil and I'm really surprised how well it worked. I just put some on a paper towel and rubbed away at it for like 10 or 15 minutes. Really happy with it, so I'm thinking the other lights will be really easy to clean too. Now it's time to cut into the old sun visors. I first want to see what's in there, but my plan I think is just to trace the old fabric and then cut and sew a new piece. All right, got it open. This foam was on the inside. It's honestly kind of gross and definitely feels old. You can see it kind of falling apart and left a bit of a mess. I'll probably replace the foam with some new stuff. Then under that, there's the frame and some old cardboard. Obviously, I need to keep the frame, but I'll definitely cut some new cardboard. I'm measuring the old labels on here because I think it'd be super funny and cool to make a new sticker that says warning high snap oversteer risk, like those high rollover risk labels, but MR2 edition. Just got back from the fabric store and got some vinyl I'm gonna use. Pretty nice quality. I think it'll look nice in the car, and I bought way more than I needed, but this roll was only 10 bucks, so super cheap. Probably reuse part of it for the seats too. And now here we go. Time to make the actual new sun visor covers. Again, I've sewn patches to jackets and shirts before, but never really anything like this, so I'm kind of just freeballing it as I go. I mean, the fabric really wasn't that expensive, so worst case, if I have to do it again, I just wasted time really. I plan on machine sewing the seats when we get there, but for this, I'm just gonna hand sew it since I don't actually own a sewing machine and am later gonna borrow one when we get there. First thing is to trace and cut the base shape with plenty of extra border. Now I'm tracing a more exact outline, which is where I'm gonna be sewing. And from here, I'm kinda just gonna go to town on it. All right, here's the first side done. I say I did a pretty good job. Definitely took a while. You can see I had to go back over one part since I had a loose thread, but that was the only issue, so not a big deal. I kind of worked on it off and on through the day and got the other side done, so now I can finally turn it inside out and see how it looks. I cut new cardboard, but ended up saving money by putting the old foam back in. It's coming together pretty good though. Okay, I sewed the top part closed, but I gotta measure where it actually hooks into the car before I can finally finish it. Of course, I gotta do everything all over for the other sun visor too now. It's been a couple days back home, but I'm finally back in Darrington to film more cars and work on the MR2 again. First thing I wanna do is jack the car up to finally, 1, get better access underneath, and 2, take these god-awful wheels off. Now, they are actually pretty nice wheels, but gold is not my style, and they are 17 inches, which is way too big for this car. Every bump I hit, I was scraping them in the wheel well, plus the tires are all mismatched and kind of torn up. I'm really hoping to either trade the wheels for more appropriate ones, or even better, sell them and try to find some stock wheels I can buy around here. Okay, so I've spent some time with the car and the paint is obviously terrible, like literally it's just spray painted on, but I've noticed that some parts of the paint were peeling, so I kind of just picked away at it to see how bad it was, but look at this. Underneath, it just looks like normal paint. Like over here on the fender too, it's peeling, but you can see underneath where I picked at, it's just normal paint again. I planned on repainting the car anyways, but now I'm super tempted to just peel away at this and see if it's any better underneath. My theory is that one of the panels, or maybe 2 of the panels, or maybe just a couple spots are more worn than the rest of the car, so they did this quick spray paint to hopefully make it look better, but again, worth a shot just to see. Well, it's definitely coming off, but it is taking forever to peel. Like, seriously, forever. It peels off, but it's just so thin, it instantly tears. It really seems peeling it with the fingers is the best way to get it off too. I tried using a plastic putty scraper, but that didn't work very well, so it was back to bare hands again. After a while, I just gave up. Maybe I'll come back to it, or maybe I can find a faster way to do it, but it's not quite worth it right now. I decided to try to tackle the headlights next. The left one still works fine, but the right one is out. I already took the cover off and tried to unscrew it, but you can see the bulb screws are rusted in there, so I sprayed some WD-40 hoping that will help get it loose. I have 2 spare headlights, so I'm just going to replace both of them while I'm at it. I popped the left cover off, but again, the bolts holding the bulb in are rusted out, which sucks, so more WD-40 it is. While I let the WD-40 soak, I decided to just pop out the rest of the plastic light pieces so I can scrub the overspray off of them like I did the brake light. I tried my best, but it seems those bolts are really just too rusted and stripped to get out, so I'm gonna have to drill them out, which kinda sucks. So the last thing I've decided to do before calling it a day is pop out the front grille, which of course has overspray on it. I couldn't get the left screw off because the clip that holds it in was loose and just spinning with the screw, so I took some pliers just to hold it in while I unscrewed it. Popped it off eventually. Again, a little bit of overspray, so hopefully we can clean that up. It's late at night, I finished filming for the day, ate some on-set dinner, and now it is time to relax and take apart the seat. I've wasted my first 5 minutes on it trying to just figure out how to take the pieces apart. I thought it was just the 2 bolts on the side, but those only held on the plastic piece. I did manage to find a couple bolts under the fabric, but I couldn't quite reach them. So it looks like I'm gonna have to take the fabric partway off before I can separate the seat pieces. I found it's just hooked closed on the back underside with some rings. I'm just using 2 screwdrivers to pry them apart. Here you can see what I had to do. I think some pliers would do the trick better, but I didn't grab them from the garage. I don't think it's quite worth going back for them, so hopefully there aren't too many of these to do. Managed to get the headrest off, but I can't seem to figure out how to get the bottom piece out. I'm assuming that it's bolted in underneath, so I guess we'll just have to come back to it later. Okay, I thought I was good to go to just pull the seat cover off, but again, I ran into another roadblock where it just would not move. Turns out it's tied into place with some rubber, which you can see here. Really hoping it's not too tight and comes apart easily. Now, it wasn't too hard, I was able to get them off, but right when I thought I was getting somewhere again, the cover felt stuck, so I gotta dig around and see what's up now. Alright, found it yet again. There's another little elastic band holding the cover to the frame. Looks like it's just gonna be a quick unbolt and it'll slide off though. This is actually one of the bolts I saw earlier when I was trying to take the seat apart, but I couldn't quite reach it, so good progress at least since I can finally get to it. And finally, I was able to get the rest of the cover pulled up and off. Took a bit of force since it's so tightly molded on there, but I did get it. I even was able to get the last part of the headrest off too. There was just a couple clips in the back that held it in place. The last thing left is to unhook the final clips that keep it in place, and there we go. Now onto the bottom half of the seat. I can finally take the top part off, and I also removed the metal side part too with the rail and controls. I can't seem to figure out how to remove the other rail though, so hopefully it appears as I take the fabric off. Oh god. More hooks and clips. You've got to be kidding me. This is gonna take forever with my current method. Alright, after a little beer break, I made a run back to the garage and got some pliers. Thankfully, they work way better than the screwdrivers, but nonetheless, getting all of these clips out is a huge pain just because of how many there are. Slowly, I got it taken apart, and I also realized I couldn't find the last bolt to unmount the rail because I had to slide it forward to reveal it. Duh. From here, just more of the same, unhooking and pulling back the fabric, but it is going by way faster than the top half did. Finally, the last part I had to do was the headrest. Luckily, it was the easiest of them since there were no hooks at all. Well guys, I finally did it. I took apart the seat, but there's always the second one. I'm just gonna try to save some time and do it off camera. It's the next morning before filming. I'm gonna try to quickly pull out the old speedometer cable. The one in here is snapped, so the speedometer doesn't work. I've looked into buying a new one, and they seem pretty non-existent. The only options I've found is buying another used one from another car or getting it custom made for like $100. There are quite a few MR2 part sellers around here on Craigslist, so I'm gonna ask around and see what I can find. It would be ideal to buy just a new one so that it doesn't just snap again soon, but I don't have $100 lying around just for a speedometer cable when the rest of the car needs other things too, so if a used one is a decent price, I may just give it a shot. See, the problem is you need the specific ends, and it also has to be really long since it has to go from the front of the car all the way to the back. While I was taking apart the dash, I did have an idea that it could be kind of cool to make my own custom gauge graphics to put in there, but the ones in here already are pretty retro as is, but still, I may see if I can sketch up something cool and maybe consider it. I just managed to pull the speedometer cable off of the transmission, and I have to admit I spent way more time looking for the thing than I expected. I had one close-up image online to go off of, and I was trying to look all around the underside for a matching angle. Naturally, I thought it would be on the side closest to the front of the car, but it turns out it was actually on the back side. Pretty easy to unscrew with a vice grip once I did find it though. Then I had to feed it over the transmission and then back under the car. There were quite a few guards under the car that held all the cables in, so I had to unbolt each one of those too. Alright, I don't want to bring my camera under the car, but for reference, if you want to know where the speedometer cable hooks up, it's right in there. You can kind of see it from here. You may be able to get it from up top, but you might have to move stuff around. Had to remove some firewall grommets, but after getting the cable out, it was pretty easy, if maybe just annoying to not get the ends caught on stuff. Hopefully I can find a replacement for a decent price now. Well, thankfully a friend of a friend happens to also own an MR2 and is willing to trade his stock wheels for mine. Honestly worked out perfect, so gonna go pick those up and call that an episode for now. Hope this was a somewhat entertaining video. It was definitely long, but I mean this whole process is gonna be a long one. See you all next time. If you got any tips or advice, let me know below. If you want to support the MR2 and YouTube fund, that'd be huge too. You can check out the Patreon or Venmo down below, but of course, thanks for even just watching, that's more important. See you next time. I got a few videos on the queue that just need to be wrapped up and released, so hoping to get those out soon. Thanks again.